Good morning, good morning, good morning, folks. How's everyone doing out there? Shout yourself out in the chat. As usual, let me just check on all of the platforms. Back for another episode. Got a lot of ground to cover. Got a lot of cool. We here. Let me make sure we alive. Let me make sure we up. Checking YouTube. Live on YouTube.
Below value settlement offers from insurance companies.
Live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. All right. YouTube is here. Yeah, no, there was a time where I actually recorded an episode and I realized that the sound wasn't working until it was too late. So now I'm like super paranoid to make sure everything is working. YouTube is here. Facebook, we live. Let me see if I can share this out on mine. Right. It's funny because I'm saying it, then I'm hearing it on my phone to make sure we're all live. We're all good. We're all good to go. All right. So that's good. Let me go check LinkedIn. Let's do it. I gotta tell you though, I am loving these live streams. I know I might sound like a old head when I say this, but it's like, dog, I'm loving them. Let's see if I can share this. That's good. Let me go check share. All right, LinkedIn is all. Let's do it. I gotta tell you though, I am loving. Wait a minute. I know I might sound like a old head when I say this, but it's like, oh, I'm loving them. Let's see if I can share this. That's good. Share. All right, LinkedIn is all. Let's do it. LinkedIn is straight. Facebook, we're back. And YouTube, we are. YouTube, we live. Good morning, everyone. Shout yourself out. Not sure where you're listening to it from. If you're on YouTube, shout yourself out. LinkedIn, shout yourself out. And Facebook, shout yourself out. Leave it in the comments. Primarily where I'll go live. If you're catching the replay, make sure you shoot me a message as well. Let me know where you're listening to this from. Why is my... Let me do something real quick. Good morning, everyone. Shout yourself out. Let me do this real quick. You see the thumbnail. Yep, we got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to unpack, seeing that we are approaching mid-November, where football is like it's football. It's a pretty big deal over here in the Move Swiftly world year round. But when we get to these November, December months, December, January, February, these next 3 months, where the legacies are born, man. Games, the recruiting is picking up. There's a lot of stuff to unpack, a lot of lessons, a lot of things you can be learning, especially for you business owners. A lot of things to be learned in regards to how you can use football, use the lessons that football actually teaches and apply them to your business. That's what we're all about here. That's one of my superpowers, is actually teaching that and teaching how to actually go about doing that, which is very, very important, because we have a beautiful game that teaches teamwork and can really mold men, mold people, mold families, mold so much of what we should be about as a society. All the conflict, all the things going on in this world. The game of football is always about the next man and figuring out how you're going to make yourself better for the next year and, developing young men. So all that being said, welcome back again. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator, here for another episode, tackling turnover with teamwork. Back for another Make Your Move Monday. We got a great kickoff question for you guys today. Got a great show lined up. Got a lot of great things to get into today. Before we do, however, let me just get through some announcements real quick. First things first, if you live in the West Palm Beach area and you would be interested, you think you may be interested, you think you may know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that may be interested in free boxing lessons, we are officially starting that up 2 weeks, a little under 2 weeks from today on November 23rd. Just message me if you would like more information. We're going to go every 2 weeks. And like I said, completely free boxing lessons for anyone that's from the ages of around 18 to 65. I'm actually a group leader for my church, Life Church out in Wellington. And it's really, really exciting stuff. It was a power recording this on a Monday, and it was an incredibly powerful message yesterday. If you are a member of Life Church and you were there for it, make sure you shout yourself out because it was very, very powerful in regards to the actual message. So next thing, business owners, paging business owners, listen up very closely. If you have not yet gotten your free guide on how to use innovative teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business, you are slipping, you're missing out. All right. It's 1000% free. Go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. It's going to take you less than 5 seconds to put in your information. And you will get a free guide on just 10 things you could be doing right now. You could be implementing right now to make it so your staff is walking into that in your business, into your place of business, wherever it is you conduct your business. So they're walking into there really feeling like they have a purpose. There's 10 ways I've laid out 10 ways for you to do that. So all right, all that being said, let's get into today's show. Today, we got a lot of things to talk about. And because, I'm such a diehard Michigan fan, I have to start the show off by talking a little bit about what I saw from the Michigan Wolverines this past Saturday. I will tell you again, as a diehard, it's tough. It's tough I'm having a difficult time letting 2023 go. I really am, because it happened so recent. We were 15-0. We were just holding up the natty. Everything was good for all my fellow Michigan fans, fellow Wolverine fans. It just felt really great to be a Michigan Wolverine. So when I see the team in the condition that the team is in now, it's really difficult to let it go. However, I was very proud of the way that the team played this past Saturday against Indiana. Had there been some sufficient quarterback play, and I don't mean to throw Davis Warren under the bus. I think he's great story, great kid. Again, I played the game, so I'm not here to bash Davis Warren, nor am I here to bash Kirk Campbell or anybody associated with that abysmal offense that we see from the Michigan Wolverines. I'm not here to attack them personally. But had there been some one or two quality offensive plays, then we would have pulled off an incredible upset against Indiana. We would have beat them. I mean, we were right there, 15-17. We got the ball going down. All you got to do is put the ball right on point. You get the first down. You give your guy a chance. You go get a field goal. You win. You clearly had the better defense. And again, I know I'm sounding like I'm still ranting about the Michigan Wolverines, but at the end of the day, again, it's my team. And when you have a game that is that close, when you see that this can be a team that should not be losing like this, we should be in the race, man. We should at least have been, being talked about as potentially in the college football playoffs and all that. But again, the season has kind of gotten away from us. But hey, that's just my take. Again, some sufficient play calling and some sufficient quarterback play, the game is a completely different turnout. However, as I was watching that game, I have to tell you, I got to give props to Coach Cignetti. I thought just, I knew who he was. I knew what he was all about, because last year I actually did an NIL deal with with 3 of his players with JMU when he was at JMU. So I saw what he was all about. I remember when he was on College Game Day last year, and I was listening to the story and how he came up and a lot of the things that he was able to do to really, make a successful transition from JMU to Indiana. I'm going to dive deeper into that later on in the show. But what I do want to talk about, I got to start off by explaining to you guys the importance of mental toughness. All right. Mental toughness is what this game is all about. And what I saw yesterday from a former Michigan Wolverine is where we're going to start today. His name is none other than Jake Moody. You heard me. Not Blake Corum, not Mike Sanders, still not the shoemaker for the the tight end, not all of the great players that have come out of the University of Michigan, but the kicker. Jake Moody showed some incredible mental toughness yesterday, and it's worth being rebroadcasted. I have to re-emphasize it to you guys so you understand what this game is all about, what this game actually teaches. All right, so watching the game, yes, I was watching all the, again, big football man. A lot of the content I come up with is coming from the football world and coming from what I see in the football world, right? So yesterday I went to a brand new Duffy's. I happened to be in Royal Palm because I was doing some work on my car and I didn't realize that there was a Duffy's right up there on Southern. So I tried out a brand new Duffy's and I happened to be watching the game. I was watching the game next to like a diehard San Francisco 49ers fan. I was watching I'm a Commanders fan myself, but you had the Commanders on, then you had the Bucks and the 49ers on, and I'm tense watching my Commanders play while this guy's next to me. He's a diehard San Francisco 49er fan. Like he met DeBarlow and grew up there, whatever it is, like Joe Montana type. like when I say diehard 49ers fans, I mean he knew like Dwight Clark and all. Like he was giving me real history lessons, right? So anyway, we're watching the 49ers take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's a close game. For the most part, it's a really close game. And one of my former Michigan Wolverines, the kicker, his name is Jake Moody, is struggling. I mean, apparently he went through some injury or whatever it is, but Jake Moody is struggling. The man cannot catch a break. He's missing kick after kick after kick after kick, and it was him. And then there were several other 49er fans watching the game where I was, and they're cussing the guy. I said, "Get him the F off the field! You suck! You suck! You suck!" I mean, the guy, listen, Jake Moody missed that last kick and he just left the bar. He couldn't take it. He left. He could not take it. He was upset. So I'm gonna show you a clip. I'm gonna show you a clip of how frustrated just the 49er faithful was when Jake Moody missed that last kick.
The injury might not be 100%. As you see on this one, it's going to be missed yet again. A lot of 49ers fans saying, hey, don't worry about it, buddy. He's still part of the team, dapping him up. Not all 49ers players are thrilled about what happened. We don't know the start of this. I'm pausing it right here. We don't know exactly where it started. This is, the earliest the broadcast shows us, but you see Deebo Samuel and the long snapper are getting into it. In fact, Deebo Samuel ultimately puts his hand on the neck of the long snapper and pushes him. And then it's funny, I have to pause it right here again. You see Moody, the kicker, trying to break things up. Hey, he's not used to putting his hands on guys. He accidentally grabs his long snapper's face mask trying to break it up. As you see, they continue to jaw at each other. It even goes on for a little bit after this, but they're just going to start talking to each other. I'm not John Boy. I can't read the lips. Later on, you see Samuel seemingly complaining to anyone who will hear him. So,
Listen, man, at the end of the day, you can't be mad at Deebo Samuel. I mean, the guy's out there busting his ass, doing what he has to do. He's went through some injuries himself. They're doing whatever I have to do. And this kicker just keeps on missing. They've lived through a ton of Super Bowl losses. They want to win. Guys want to win. They're set up to win. And when you talk to the 49er faithful, they feel like they got cheated in that Super Bowl. They feel like that Super Bowl should have been theirs. So they're coming in to this year ready to get over the hump. They're tired of the Kansas City Chiefs and they want to win. You could feel that energy. So I don't agree with him, pushing and shoving and all that, but I do agree with Deebo Samuel saying, look, man, we're trying to win. We don't got time for this, right? That's when you know that you have a team that wants to win. So it's easy at that point. And again, as a football guy, I'm thinking about the kicker and the mental capacity of the kicker and what it really takes. And a lot of people look at kickers, that's just the kicker. They don't really go through much because they're always kicking. They're not really part of the team. And it takes a level of mental fortitude. It takes a level of courage. It takes a level of integrity to stay in it, to stay in the game. All right, whatever. And again, I'll relay this message to you. You may be going through something right now. You may be going through something at your job, at your place of business, in your work, and in your family, whatever it is, where it's so easy to check out, just like it was so easy for Jake Moody to check out. But if you stick with it, if you stick with your people and you have faith within your people, then this is ultimately what can happen.
Can it be redemption for Jake Moody to win it from 44? Kick is up, and it is up and through. It's good. The 49ers win it.
You see, that's why you gotta love this game. That's why you gotta love this game. Just what? A couple minutes ago, the guys were ready to take his help, but then he stayed with it, stayed close. And again, I'm mentioning Jake Moody is a Michigan guy because right now we need all the praise we can get. But what that teaches, what that shows, and how that relates to you guys is as you're going through whatever it is you may be going through, think about how you can think about the positives and the outcomes and the results of not checking out. All right. Think about what you can do as a coworker, as a teammate, as a family member, as whoever it is you are. Then you see somebody that's kind of hitting the wall. You see someone when you're in a situation where you can really, really bully the guy. You can really kick him when he's down. But if you pick him up and you say, look, we're going to ride with you regardless, he ends up making the kick to win the game. All right. So I had to start off by going there because it's an incredibly important thing for you guys to understand. All right. So that just saying that transitions me into what we're going to discuss today. All right. So what we're talking about today is the portal, the transfer portal, and really breaking down all of the pros and all of the cons when it comes to this transfer portal. Now, myself, this is a topic that I have a great deal of credibility when it comes to what it's all about. So the positives. All right. The positives. And first of all, this is the making move. The kickoff question again. Is the portal a positive or a negative for college football? All right. Now, again, I'm curious to hear what you have to say for this or what your answers are for if it's a positive or a negative. At the moment, I'll give you my answer, and again, you guys could free to let me know what you think in the chat or shoot me a message, whatever it is. At the current moment, as it stands right now, the transfer portal is a negative for college football. And I say that not because of any of the coaches that may or may not have benefited from the transfer portal. I don't say that because of like I said, anybody that is using the transfer portal and is seeing success. I don't say it's a negative because of maybe some players, maybe some of the players who weren't successful here are successful there. I don't say it for any of the reasons that you would think. I say it's been a negative for college football because the NFL currently does not have a feeder system. And I'll dive deeper into the details about this later on in the show. But without a feeder system for NFL, for professional football, then the portal becomes like a train wreck. It becomes a situation in which it's a free for all, and guys are going wherever they want to go. And it's all about the money. It's all about not only money, but it's all about me, and giving myself an opportunity to be seen by college scouts. And when that starts, not be seen by college scouts, but actually it does technically have that at the high school level. But like I said, I'll dive into that later. But when you're talking about the portal, it becomes a negative because the player is only thinking about themselves and what's going to give them the best opportunity to be seen by the NFL. They're not taking it, and they're not really being part of a team-like atmosphere. The culture in the locker room becomes very individualized. And ultimately, because there's no system that makes it so, like the NBA and baseball, they have an actual feeder system. There's no system. There's no teams. There's no farm teams that NFL teams work with. It ultimately becomes about an individualized thing. And there's so many things that are wrong with it, just the picture in itself. There's so many issues that come up when you're trying to teach men principles. You're trying to teach young men how to stay committed. You're trying to teach young men how to develop. You're trying to teach young men exactly what it takes to, lead somewhat of a successful life and stuff like that, to make an improvement in their lives. But there's always this scapegoat. There's always a situation where you can jump into a portal and leave, and maybe you may or may not get picked up by another team or another school. So at the current moment, because there's no feeder system for the NFL, in my opinion, it is a negative. So In regards to that, we're going to stay on that subject today, and we're going to talk about some of the pros. All right, I'll start off by talking about some of the pros that have come with this current transfer portal. All right, the pros, in my opinion, is first and foremost, it's an opportunity for coaches who have built their reputation, have built their resume, have built their built their resume. We'll say built their resume and their reputation, which is kind of the same thing in this business. But it's an opportunity for a lot of these coaches who are at smaller schools to move up and maintain relationships that they've had with players. All right. One of the things that, that really stuck out to me as I was watching my Michigan Wolverines play against Indiana University. I was hearing a lot of the stories because I knew about Coach Cignetti before, all this hype has become, in my opinion, the guy who should easily run away with the Coach of the Year. But I heard about Coach Cignetti because of JMU and what he was doing at JMU and the success of the JMU program in general. Me growing up in Maryland, you hear about the JMU, James Madison University, if you guys are not familiar, but they've been a powerhouse at the FCS level for years. It wasn't until actually last year where I realized that they had already made the move up to the Sun Belt because I did an NIL deal with several of the players, several of the former Good Counsel football players. Shout out to Julio and Latrell and Jalen Green, if you're listening. But like I said, as I was listening and I was watching the Michigan Indiana game, I realized how the merge, and we're talking, for those of you who don't know, if you're just joining me, we're talking about the pros and cons of the portal when it comes to college football. Right now I'm on the pros, and the pros, number one, is the relationships, the opportunity for the relationships for the smaller school coaches to be maintained as they get courted by these bigger schools. And understand, this is one of the things I actually talked about in my book, Transferring D1, is playing sports and being a part of a sports program, being a part of a college football program in particular. It's a privilege. It's not a right. It's not something that is guaranteed. It's not something like that a huge percentage of the world is going to have the opportunity to experience. So when you play, especially at the level that I played, at the FCS level, at the D2 level, understand that the budget is incredibly tight. It's an incredibly tight budget. It's not a lot of money for the coaches that are coaching at that level, to the point where if you are actually worth it, if you're worth a damn, you're going to eventually get courted by these bigger schools. And because you are trying to build, you're trying to put food on the table for your families, you're trying to pay bills and stuff like that, it's important for you to really listen and pay attention when these Power 4, I got to call them Power 4 schools now, they used to be Power 5 schools, but when these Power 4 schools start coming in and offering you an opportunity, you have to entertain it. It is not responsible for you at a smaller school, whether it's D2 or an FCS or D3 program. It's not responsible. It won't be responsible for you to have a Power 4 offer and not listen to it, because this is just the have and have nots. This is just the reality of the business of college football. So what I realized happened with Coach Cignetti, and I'll play you a couple clips in a second here, but what I realized happened with him, and I was listening to, as I was preparing for this, I was listening to several of his interviews, and I realized that when the Big Ten signed that TV deal a couple of years ago, Coach Cignetti that actually intrigued Coach Cignetti, and he didn't think that when he took the job at Indiana that he was going to get some of his JMU players with him. But luckily he was able to keep a couple of his guys from JMU and bring them to Indiana University with him. Now, for those of you who don't know, JMU is in a smaller conference. They're not FCS anymore, but I believe it's the Sun Belt, and it's not a Power 4 conference. So it's pretty much at the same level of several FCS schools nowadays. FCS programs and some of these smaller schools that aren't in the Power 4, they're pretty much at the same level. So what happened was, when he took the job at Indiana University, he brought some guys with him. So from that perspective, this is a good thing. I'll say the portal is kind of beneficial because guys are transferring up. Guys are wanting to say, hey, I'm going to prove myself. I want to go out. And again, just like me, this is where this book actually came from. The kind of the principle and the premise from this book was from the idea of me transferring from a Division II program to an FCS program. So when Coach Cignetti first got in, and this is, I'll let him describe it. I'll let this clip play in a second, but pretty much to give you some backstory, when he took the job at Indiana University, he had brought in a mix of guys that were still kind of had a chip on their shoulder because they were playing at a school like JMU and they felt overlooked by the biggest schools. And that led to a culture that you see now as, again, a 10-0 team that is in first place in the Big Ten. All right, so I'll let it play.
I never once thought that any of these guys would join us, or it never even entered my mind. But as soon as I left to come here, they started going to portal. And, those were a lot of guys. They were very close. They had won 5 championships. They were close with their coaches, believed in the program, had a little chip on their shoulder. They're probably sitting around wondering, why wasn't I recruited by Virginia or Virginia Tech? And they wanted to come. And about 12 or 13 of them total, 13, I believe, so maybe 10 or 11 in December. They helped facilitate the culture change in January because they'd been through the program. They could answer questions. The other guys, the ones who stayed, had the right stuff, had a chip on their shoulder. The other transfers we brought in came from winning programs, so they had been successful. They knew what it took. And, we had good winter and good spring ball, good summer, good fall camp, but we had to put it on the field.
That's it. So again, that is one of the things that, in my opinion, when the transfer portal actually became a thing, that is one of the things that became one of the positives about it. One of the pros about it is the fact that these smaller school guys, when these coaches get courted by these bigger jobs, these smaller school coaches at the FCS level or at the D2 level, when they get courted by these bigger jobs, they have an opportunity to bring these guys with them. They get an opportunity to play. They get to see there's a level of humility with these programs. All right, so that's number one. Pro number one is the relationships that smaller school coaches have with their current smaller school guys that have that walk-on mentality, that grind mentality, that mentality that you need when you take the football field, right? Understanding that every single game stands on its own and anything can happen on any given Saturday. The next thing, which kind of is the trade-off or a piggyback off the first thing, that's a pro about the portal, is the opportunity for smaller school players. All right. The opportunity that a D2 guy who may have slipped through the cracks in high school, the opportunity that he or she may have, because this isn't just a football thing we're talking. I know football is responsible for 90% of the revenue that comes in with a lot of these programs and why this is even a thing right now. But when it comes to the second pro, and I'm only going to give you 2 today. The first one was the relationship. If you're just joining me, we're talking the pros and cons of the portal on college football. First pro was the relationships that smaller school coaches have with their current players. Second pro is now the opportunity that small school players actually have. This one is huge, folks. This one is huge because 4 years before the portal, I mean, I could name every player's Jerry Rice. There was, I believe, Steve McNair. There was even J.J. Watt. Even J.J. Watt was another one, right? Get a lot of guys that slip through the cracks when it comes to college football recruiting. All right. I'm talking about high school players that end up having to go D2 somewhere, FCS programs. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I believe, was not even offered. He wasn't even offered a college scholarship. He wasn't even offered a Division I program. I think he actually had to go through the D2 route. All right. It is an incredible opportunity for smaller school players, all right, to be seen by these bigger schools and really walk on and show what you can do. That is a pro. That is a huge thing. Understand this. And this is just the reality of the situation. All right. And I played for 2 college programs, been a college scout, coached high school football, been around the block when it comes to this specific subject. You can just look me up and see all the places I've been, all the things I've done in regards to just the college football recruiting landscape. it is a very short-lived time, right? I've been in some locker rooms where there are starters, actual players who were projected to start, people that actually were going to play, who woke up one morning and said, I don't want to play football no more, and just turned their shit in, turned in their equipment, and never played again. I mean, actual legitimate guys that had an opportunity to be on the field. Because when you get down to these lower level schools that don't have a lot of TV attention, that don't have a huge fan base, and the idea of them playing in the NFL is just, they've already forgotten about that. It starts to become a waste of time for some people. All right. And when you play at these smaller programs, you start to see the writing on the wall. You start to really think about what you want to be doing after football. You start thinking about what you want your major to be. You start thinking about who you want to be with, what kind of family you want to live, what kind of money you want to be making in the future, what it's going to take, what I have to study, where do I have to get into my math. All of this stuff starts happening at the collegiate level. And then the importance of actually playing football, it diminishes over time, and time after time, it stops being important to some of these smaller school guys. So the opportunity that the transfer portal provides for some guys that still have that goal, that still have the goal of, at least playing and trying out, giving it all they got, riding this thing to the wheels. So I played with quite a few of them at the level that I played at. It's an opportunity for them to go out and see if they can hack it, see if they can play at a Power 4 school and see what it's all about, as opposed to, maybe potentially wasting their time at a program that really isn't that big on football. And you got guys that are coming in at the program. You got guys that aren't really taking the game seriously. They're showing up to practice whenever they want. They're really just kind of blowing off the morale, and it's not as fun because you feel like you have the talent to make it to the league. And the portal now provides an opening for those guys, and there's quite a few of them. Again, there's a lot of those who really believe that they have the ability to go make something of their playing career, maybe get a CFL contract, maybe go do something in regards to just getting paid to play the game and play professionally. I know a ton of people, man. Again, I myself played for some serious programs. Know a ton of players, ton of high school coaches, players that were still in that mentality, still in tryout mode while they were coaching at a specific high school. And again, the portal provides that opportunity for these guys to continue to be seen by the Power 4 schools. All right. So those, in my opinion, those are the pros. And I'll let Kurt, there's another clip I want to show you with Kurt Cignetti that really, that he explains that in a way that is very, very important for you guys to understand how this business works.
Joining from their previous school. And so, like, I'm not necessarily a guy that, lives by the portal year in, year out. I mean, this was a necessity. And look, I wasn't going to take 4 or 5 years to win. Like back in the day, you just try to build a program by your 4th year. Nowadays, you got to win now, because this is the I want it now society and times, with social media and all that, right? And I'm not used to not winning. Right. So we were going to win now. And it all worked out.
Do you think
you see what I'm saying? So you have the mentality of the coach who needs to win now, and you have the mentality of the player who maybe got overlooked in high school, still wants to play professional, like talent. You have those mentalities working together. It makes for a very, very dangerous football team. All right, it makes for a very hungry, emotional. Almost lost you there. Come out from the coach's perspective, right? I just got a little skip there. Let me make sure I am all good on all the platforms. Come out from the coach's perspective, right? You make it for it makes a very hungry group of men, and all of that stuff, in my opinion, is great. I think those are pros. I think that those are things that as young men, it's very, very valuable to experience that, because when you move on to the latter parts of life and, you put the football stuff behind you, you're going to need to take that mentality to whatever job interview you may be having, whatever situation you may be having with a potential suitor or wife and your family, and you're trying to build something. You're going to need to take that mentality into sales. You're going to need to take that mentality into every walk of life, every single day, that hungry, got to win it now, got to go out and take whatever it is I want. Because ain't nobody, I'm telling you as a man that's in the real world now, ain't nobody going to give you nothing. It's not going to happen. You got to go out and take the things you want in life, and take it every day, and then take it again, and then take it again, and then take it again. And that mentality of the coach that needs to win now isn't on some, okay, we got a 4-year, no, we got to win now, like Coach Signetti just said. And the mentality of the player who really feels like they were overlooked in high school, that hunger, that eye of the tiger, that eye of the tiger that they have. And you see it every single Saturday, when you see it every single day at practice. And then we as consumers, we get to see it every single day. Every single Saturday, you see just a hungry group of men. All of those are good things. All those are positive things that need to be emphasized when it comes to the portal. And that's the part of the portal that I have enjoyed watching the most. That's actually the part that made me, want to write this and put this on and be a part of it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. All right. So those are the pros, I'll say, when it comes to the portal. Now we got to talk about the cons. All right. Now we got to talk about where things become really negative. And before I even get started, I found a clip. Of the, I hate to actually say this out loud, seeing that I am a Michigan fan, but I do have to admit, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, Urban Meyer. I gotta own it. I gotta give the man credit where credit is due. He has, I think, 3 national championships, 2 with Florida, 1 with Ohio State, Rose Bowl champion. The man is a legend in the college football world. And, again, pros, I didn't think he should have taken the Jacksonville Jaguar job, but that's neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, when it comes to college football, the man knows what he's talking about. And I found a clip, I think it was like last year, he was talking about the portal, where he discusses some of the cons and some of the problems that do come up with this transfer portal. So I'll let him talk, and then I'll give you my take.
It's had an amazing impact. We're focused on the Big Ten. 8 out of 14 starting quarterbacks are transfers at one point in their career.
Yeah, and when you look at it nationally, it's about 60%. All right, Coach, so that's the new world, the new reality. So how do you manage your roster in this new world?
Okay, here's what's happened. People now have transfer portal staffs.
Right.
And that means they're, I know, a certain school that needed an offensive tackle. You know what they did? They have their staff that looks at all the lower level schools and said, this kid's a heck of a player. Let's go find out if there's any interest. And that gets a little cloudy. Are you allowed to go talk to the player? No, that's called tampering. You're not allowed to talk to the player. But a lot of them now are going to call the high school coach and say, does your player have interest in moving up a level and playing at a place like, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama type thing. So the residual of the transfer portal for some of these bigger schools, they have their own staff. I know at Colorado, I've talked to the staff at Colorado who has 85 new players.
Right.
They are saving scholarships every year. So you go out and recruit your high school players, and then we're going to save this 5 or 10 or 15 scholarships and not give them to the high school players. So that's another residual impact on the high school player.
So let's get back to
Listen, again, the man, as much as I hate to admit it, the man is 1,000% right. The residual is that, again. And we'll start by this. First problem with the portal is right there what he said. The money. The money takes over. If you are a program that has the budget to go hire a transfer portal staff, where you're looking at smaller school guys, a lot of the kind of guys that I just described, right, to you in the pros, the smaller school FCS D2 guys that have what it takes, that are sticking out, and you're out there looking at certain players that may be good for your program at one of these Power 4 schools, and you're technically not going and tampering directly to talk to the kid, but you're going through the high school coach, who can stop you? You are at a Power 4 school. You can go talk to whatever high school coach you want, and you can ask about this specific play that you may have missed on, and then that high school coach goes and tells this player that he just had on his program and his roster, hey, University of Alabama is interested in you. Now, the kid who was playing at this D2 school or this FCS program is thinking, oh man, I could go transfer. I can go play in front of 100,000 people. And then you think as an 18-year-old kid, you're not going to listen to that? You think as an 18-year-old kid who has the talent, who thinks that they're going to be playing in the NFL, is it their fault that they would, entertain an opportunity like that? Absolutely not. So the cons become the programs who have it, the programs that have the money, have the ability, have the pockets, all right, to go build out an entire staff and go look and recruit at these smaller schools. Now these FCS programs and these D2 programs are on the chopping block. How are they going to keep any talent on their roster? How are they going to keep, and how is it going to make it so these programs actually are going to be thriving? That's number one. All right. Next thing he said. So the first thing is money takes over. The programs with the money actually take over. The next con is exactly like you said. What about the actual high school kid? What about the actual high school football player? Somebody tell me what happens to the high school football player with this transfer portal. All right, this transfer portal and everything it's doing, the actual high school football player is screwed. We'll just say it just like that. There's no other way of saying it. There's no way around it. The actual high school football player who's busting his behind, getting his SAT scores together, getting his transcripts together, has his parents at certain, his parents are being filled, his parents and his coaches. He himself is being filled with a bunch of empty promises from these college coaches. Again, I've been there. I know what that feeling is like. I was that player that could go from anywhere from D3 all the way to FCS. So I heard a lot of BS, a lot of nonsense from these college coaches. It was a time where you as a player at that point as a high school kid who is really believing in this game that's teaching you so much, these quote unquote professional, these quote unquote college coaches come in and not through any fault of their own, but they have to lie to you. They have to deceive you. They have to tell you things that aren't really going to happen. They have to basically blow a lot of smoke up your ass. You have to hear these college coaches come in and tell you all types of nonsense. What happens to the high school kid now that there's situations in which you have coaches or programs that are saving scholarships for portal kids? So now the high school kid isn't going to get an opportunity to play. The high school kid is going to get shafted, not because they don't have the ability, but because they don't necessarily fit. They don't have the experience, or there's some portal guy that comes in and takes up a roster spot. So now what happens again? And then let's say I could already hear it in the chat. Let's say there's a high school kid that slips through the cracks, that has Power 4 talent, and then goes to an FCS program. Okay, they go to the FCS program, they go ball, they do their thing. Eventually, there are actual staff members from these Power 4 programs that are looking at him and tampering and try to get him to their program. Not only are they going to be looking at the player, but now, as I just explained at the beginning, they're also going to be looking at the coach to bring them on to a Power 4 program. So at the end of the day, one of the cons is the money is going to be taken over, and eventually the haves are going to, it's the haves and the have-nots. It's the haves and the have-nots. So just to recap, and I'll close you guys out soon because I'll give you a solution. I've been on record. I have a book on this subject. I talk about this all the time. I could talk about it for hours. So eventually I'll tell you what the solution actually is. But the pros, we'll go over the pros first. The pros of the portal. Number one, the relationships that it can maintain with smaller school coaches and their players as they're moving up in levels. And the next pro is the opportunity for smaller school guys that may have slipped through the cracks, that have Power 4 talent, NFL talent, that now you have an opportunity to be seen and, play at a higher level and all that. Those are the pros. Those are the good things. Those are the things that I'm all for. The cons are it's simply the haves and have-nots. The haves and have-nots, meaning as Urban Meyer just explained, there are actual Power 4 programs that have transfer portal staffs that are on salary. They get paid to go look at players who are playing for these smaller schools. They get paid to go look at these players that are playing for these smaller schools and see who can come up and play with them. Obviously, they don't go directly to the player. They're able to work around through the high school coach. Again, it's a very small circle in this business. So there's going to be ways of getting a message out to this specific player. And eventually what starts to happen is these high school kids that could have been developed, all right, are in a situation where they're losing opportunities. They're losing opportunities because there's actual roster spots saved for transfer portal kids. All right. Those are the pros. Those are the cons of it. Now, here is the solution. Here's the solution. A solution that I've said it so many different times. I will not get tired of saying it. If you right now, you can do this right now, wherever you're listening to me from. You can look up my name, Aswan Cruikshank, ASWANDCRUICKSHANK. All right. You can look my name up, and then right after you type in my name, type in the words feeder system, and you will see a slew of information, a slew of takes, slew of videos, articles, everything I have done. In fact, I'll just show you right now as I'm looking at it. There's a chapter right here in this book that has it right here. Go ahead and read it. Chapter 8, the value of a feeder system. That's the solution, folks. That's the solution. The NFL has got to get away from the draft and go to a feeder system. If you were to have a feeder system, then you will get these players that already have college experience and they have NFL aspirations. There's an actual team that they can go play on the same way that the Bronny has played for the G League team. You need the NFL teams to actually build a feeder farm team, a farm system where they would take some of these college kids, put them on rosters, pay them through their income or through their contracts or whatever, and allow some of these roster spots for high school players to open back up. And then everything is going to run the right way. But right now, the portal is being used for a lot of just players that, again, college players that have already had their opportunity. They've already had their chances, and they're just trying to get one last crack at it. They're kind of on their last. They're kind of in their home stretch. And what starts to happen, as you can see, is that the next generation of players coming up, now they don't get the opportunity that they should be getting to develop and get better. And again, I'll tell you, because I spent a lot of time. Actually, let me show. I think I have it here. I don't, but I spent all this information, you could look it up. But I spent a lot of time as a college scout. And I spent a ton of time as college scout, high school football coach, and I was a scout for a company named FBU Football University, which wasn't just when I first graduated from college, I was a college scout for all sports, and then while I was coaching high school football, I was a scout just for a company named Football University, where our space, the space that we were in, were middle school kids. We were required to go recruit middle school kids and get them technically the job was to get them to a camp, but it was, we were working with big time high school coaches and big time high school football programs that had a lot of resources. So I had an opportunity to see this thing firsthand and what was happening. I'm just being 100%, and I'll close you guys out soon, but just this idea and this concept, what was happening at the middle school level with these kids is that they were reclassing. You heard me correctly. They were reclassing, meaning kids at the middle school level parents at the middle school level were purposely holding their kids back, telling them that they can do 6th grade over again or 7th grade or 8th grade over again, just to get themselves a better opportunity to be seen by college football coaches. That's what a game where you can literally blink in a snap of a fingers, that ankle can go the wrong way, an injury can happen, God forbid an injury can happen, and all of a sudden the game is taken away from you just like that. You were basing that much you are putting your child that much at risk, all right, by having them redo the 8th grade or redo the 7th grade or 6th grade because you have made it so the actual game is the one thing that they could depend on, not their academics, not their studies. They're not thinking about, and these are kids that before they even started high school. So you're not talking to them about necessarily, getting and I'm not calling out any specific parent on this. If you feel a certain way, then maybe I'm calling you. I don't care at this point. You're not looking at college as a situation where you're not telling your kids that get your grades right, get your academics right, focus on what you want to be studying outside of football because the game doesn't last forever. You're actually sending the message to your child to reclass, do the 8th grade all over again. So you're bigger, you're stronger, you're faster, and you have some sort of a competitive advantage that will lead to a potential scholarship. And there's absolutely no guarantee. The only and then not only that, but how these coaching changes works. I mean, there's new coaches every single year. There's a new coach hiring cycle every single year. So reclassing, allowing your son to reclass just to get a better opportunity at a scholarship or just to, be at a certain high school that has a lot of college scouts. That's what's happening. All right, that's what's happening. And then when you think about it, you can't necessarily blame the parent for having this mentality because, again, at the NFL level, there's no actual feeder system. There's no actual system that says that there's no out here in South Florida, so I'll use the Dolphins as an example. And because I used to work for the Dolphins, and I saw how hard the Dolphins would work towards maintaining a connection with the local high schools, because again, it's Miami Dolphins. This is a hotbed for recruiting, right? But if the Miami Dolphins were to build a feeder team, let's say out here in West Palm Beach, and call it the West Palm Beach Panthers or whatever, and say, again, these are our guys that are on contract with the Miami Dolphins. At any point, we can call them up, and these are the guys that we want, that we see throughout the year. Something happens, as you see, stuff happens with Tua, something happens with injuries. It's the NFL. Again, it's a game. Their guys are going to go down, and you need to be able to have guys available to you that you can call up at a moment's notice. The fact that there is no feeder system is what leads to a parent who has a son who's a football player and wants to play in the NFL, leads to a parent thinking that it's okay to reclassify their kid and make it so they do the 8th grade or the 7th grade all over again, so they have a better opportunity. And then when you throw out these, massive contract numbers that, parents are feeding into, that the mainstream media throws out there on SportsCenter, then you can see where a parent can kind of, get some bad advice and just make the wrong decision. So this is happening, and I've been saying this for years at this point, and I am going to continue to say, because what we see, what needs to happen if we want to, and again, we're talking the pros and cons of the transfer portal in college football. If we want to see the game not become just get ruined. Again, I'm not totally against the transfer portal. I'm not totally for it. There's things that it's kind of equal amount of things that can happen. Again, it's a business, it's football. You just never know what's going to happen because of the way the game works. But a way of kind of fixing and maintaining what we love about college football is by making sure, number one, the NFL goes to a feeder system and doesn't make it so the draft becomes such a big deal. And number two, we have got to get the message out to parents of the younger football players that you need to be focused and you need to be aligned and you need to be making sure that your kids and your young kings are putting a focus on their education and using the game to get themselves a quality education, get themselves a quality degree, get themselves in a situation where they're not so dependent on football, where they're using the game of football to better their lives outside of, just playing. So this was me about a year ago, basically saying the same thing. And as we transition and as we see this new portal open, it's important that we make sure that we get this message out to as many players as possible, many parents as possible.
But that you understand you got to get it done in that classroom, and you have to be one of the top-notch guys, because this transfer portal gets packed every single year, and even it's trickling down into the FCS programs to where now, excuse me, now they're taking kids instead of taking kids from high school. They're dropping kids from high school and they're just taking kids that enter the transfer portal. So it's important that we address that right now.
And that's it. That's the show. That's pretty much the show today. All right. The messages, and just to recap today, we talked the pros and cons of the transfer. In fact, let me just put it up here in case you're joining me late. But we're talking the pros and cons of the portal. All right. And again, it's a person, 5-time published author, latest book, Transferring D1, a person that went from a D2 program transferred from a D2 program to a Division I program, spent time as a college scout, spent time as a high school football coach, spent time just being a scout for a company named Football University, spent time as a trainer, spent time as a workshop host for Positive Coaching Alliance. Again, you can look up my resume. I've been around the block quite a bit in regards to this particular subject. The pros, number one, the pros that I've seen personally with my own eyes is it's an opportunity for smaller school coaches to maintain relationships with their guys as they're planning on moving up, and the ones that really want to have a future in this game. The high school players that may have slipped through the cracks and are playing at a smaller school, it's a great opportunity for them to be at a Power 4 school, or to be, looked at a Power 4 school, or whatever it is, or the NFL. Just basically be playing a higher level of football than they are currently playing. That's the pros. Those are good things. That's a positive mindset. And given the nature of the culture we live in this win now culture, when you have that mindset, hey, that's a great mix, because that's going to be the mentality that you need every day of your life outside of football. The cons, however, it becomes the haves and have-nots. All right. The ones who got the money, the ones that got the budget to have an actual portal staff where they're going out and hiring and paying people to go look at kids that are at smaller schools and trying to pull the talent from these smaller schools and pull them into the bigger school programs. First thing it does is it ruins the whole FCS and D2, D3 programs. It completely ruins the morale there. Second thing, these high school kids, high school players, they miss out on opportunities, and you completely ruin the purity and ruin with the great things that the game once was to them. All right, those are the cons. The solution is to create a feeder system. The NFL needs to go to a feeder system, stop with all of the coverage that we have with this draft, go with the feeder system, get back to tryouts, get back to actual players competing with each other, and just, again, see who's better on the field. Forget about what the rankings call you. Forget about what ESPN said about it. Forget about how the 5 stars and 2 stars and 3 stars and all that other bullshit. Let's get up on the field and let's see who's better between me and you. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to that, though. We got to get back to that mentality. We can't get into, one of the things that really used to drive me crazy when I coached high school was we had players, looking up other guys and, this one's a 5-star, this one's a 4-star, this one's look, who's better on the field, baby? That's what I'm all about. That's it. And I'll close you guys out on that. I'll close you guys out on that, because that's really the game I know, so main website to check out, again, if you have not yet, it's makeyeamove.com. It's makeyeamove.com. Business owners, if you have not yet, make sure. Let me get this off real quick. Business owners, if you have not yet, go to freeguide.makeyeamove.com. Get you a free guide on how to use 10 best ways to use innovative teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business. Everyone out there, appreciate you guys coming on. We'll be back on Wednesday. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Let's go. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork that you will not get anywhere else. Good day today. Good quick run today. 4 miles. Felt great. Felt great to just knock it out real quick. You got race season coming up. You better believe we're jumping into several 5Ks and 10Ks. Gonna jump back into the half as well. We'll get this going. The marathon will be happening. Most likely I'll do it virtually because, it's difficult to get in a race now that it's been so late. All right. So as far as today's Move Swiftly thought, recording this Monday, November 12th, 2024. per usual on Mondays, started this tradition maybe a few weeks ago. Kickoff question for the week. You know, I'll be doing a live stream in about an hour or so where I'll dive deeper into the kickoff question and really flesh out all my thoughts on it, things of that nature, but it's based on kind of a current event and what's relevant over here, relevant in the world, and relevant in what the Move Swiftly world is all about, which is aligning the lessons that you learn on the sports field, more in particular the football field, aligning the teamwork lessons with business. That's what it's all about here, if you're a first-time listener to my work, right? So as far as the kickoff question, the Make Your Move Monday kickoff question of the week, we're going to dive deeper into this transfer portal, all right? We saw a lot of misfortune throughout this football season in regards to the transfer portal. Myself as a Michigan fan took another L to Indiana University, the Hoosiers. You know, I was listening, and, you know, I know the coach for Indiana came from JMU, and, you know, he brought in several transfers and he had to turn it around really quick. So the question is, has the transfer portal been a positive or a negative for college football? All right. Now, usually how this works is I give my take on it. However, I'm curious to hear what you have to say in regards to the question. My take on it is, at the current moment, as we sit here, 2024, it has been a negative. It has been a negative to college football, not through the fault of anybody who has benefited from the transfer portal, not through the fault of Coach Prime, not through the fault of Lane Kiffin, not through the fault of Coach Signetti or whoever has been, whatever coach you've seen is doing really well with the transfer portal and doing their thing. And you can see the turnaround in their team, and they're playing really well because of how much they've benefited from the transfer portal. That's not why I'm saying it's a negative to college football. I'm saying it's a negative to college football because there is no feeder system. All right, there's no feeder system for the NFL. All right, at the moment, the current feeder system is college. So what's starting to happen is we see this transfer portal taken over, and guys who have experience playing college football are now taking roster positions on college football programs, trying to leverage themselves to get themselves seen by NFL scouts. And the way that hurts the game is it ruins the process from high school football to college football. And now kids are not being developed, and everything becomes about, can this guy get in the league, and am I doing what I have to do? Like, it becomes so individualized, and the development of people, the development of young men, the development of a culture in a program, you just can't do it given the quick turnaround that's expected of you as a coach, as a program, and especially if we're talking, these Power 4 schools. It used to be Power 5, but now that we're talking Power 4 schools, they need to win, and they need to win right now. And you need to have the budget to be paying players, all sorts of money with NIL. You need to be doing things. You need to be taking huge risks, so to speak, on players that have not proven themselves yet. So, well, let me not say they haven't proven themselves. They've proven themselves in the college landscape. So when we're talking money now and it becomes a professional sport at this particular point, now the development of the game, the development all the way through youth and high school, now that development gets tarnished because guys aren't developing. Guys are trying to transfer here, transfer there. You're not really letting kids be kids. Everything becomes about lobbying and, trying to get them leverage to a certain school. And now you got families moving all over the place, and it becomes a mess. The ripple effect of it at the moment has made it so it's actually a negative. All right. However, that doesn't mean it cannot become a positive if the NFL implements a feeder system. And I'll dive deeper into that in about an hour as I talk a little bit about the pros and cons of the transfer portal. So just stay tuned in. But long story, I know I could get, when we're talking college football, I have a lot to say on it. So I can get a little long-winded. I've learned to kind of cut myself off at a certain time. So Make Your Move kickoff question for the day, for the week is the transfer portal, has it been a positive or a negative for college football? All right, and I'll leave it at that for now. Main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work, it's makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. One-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.